Hello, Philippines. This is Eric Lecain with World News Jam. We bring you the most interesting stories from around the world each week. We just don't give you the news, but we tell you the story behind the news, as well as read and answer your questions in an entertaining and easy to understand way. So please join us on DZRJ 810 AM Radio Bandito TV and get yourself updated with all the interesting news of the week from around the world right here on DZRJ's World News Jam.
Watch and listen to World News Jam every Sunday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. airing on Sky Cable Channel 224 and on all DTT boxes. Simulcasting online on Facebook and YouTube. Listen and watch on your mobile devices. Just search DZRJ Radio Bandido.
Hello, Philippines, and welcome to the World News Jam right here on DZRJ and RJ TV. My name is Eric Lecain, and I'm joined with, as always, the lovely Lalli Tolentino.
Hello.
How are you doing this week, Lalli Tolentino?
It was a great week, Eric, with all the challenges in the world, like World Jam.
There's lots of challenges in the world. So we have, here on the show, what we do is we talk about interesting stories that are going on, usually outside the Philippines, stuff that's going on around the world, because so much, Lalli, is going on around the world that we really need to know about so that we can look really smart at this year's Christmas parties that we're all waiting to go to, that are coming up soon. I know everybody's excited about all the Christmas parties that are coming and all the games that you have to play to embarrass yourself.
Oh yeah, I mean, are you? You have a lot of parties to go to already.
I'm sure it's going to be. I'm going to have to draw out my giant calendar of what parties I'm going to be going to. Which parties I know have the free food.
Well, Eric, as long as you don't make a real debate with friends, because this is, I mean, having all kinds of news, sometimes getting ideas of or opinion of different people might end up with a fight.
Boy, do I know that's true. Because I remember a couple of Christmases ago, it was when it's election time. Oh my goodness!
Oh yes, election is another one.
I try and avoid.
Oh yes, as much as possible, avoid politics and religion, as they say.
Yeah, because I know no matter what it is, no matter what I say, there's going to be someone in the room that does not agree with me and wants to fight with me. So, because in these days, all we have to talk about is unfortunately fighting, which is what is in the news this week. But before I wanted to get to that, Lalli, I've never asked you this before, but do you have a tattoo?
In my body?
Yes.
No.
No tattoos?
Yes, I refuse to have one. No offense to anyone who has tattoo, because for me, okay, I'll tell you first before you get into your whatever, story you have about tattoo, because this is my personal thing. Way back, all the people that I saw and I met with tattoos all came from jail. So my thinking
is old school.
Yeah, the old school. Yeah, that's true. It's very old school. Because people in jail, maybe they have nothing to do, so they ended up like putting tattoos on their body and all that. But now they said it's an art. Okay.
Now it's the cool thing to do. The young people coming up, especially you get into college, the first thing you got to do is get yourself a tattoo. Body art is what they call it now. But what's interesting, Lalli, is that a lot of Israelis are now getting tattoos. And I had no idea that tattoo art was so big in Israel. But a lot of Israelis now are getting tattoos in order to deal with the pain of the people that were killed on October 7th. There are a lot of people this day are getting the date of October 7th tattooed to their body along with the Star of David. And this was a big enough story that it made it on several news agencies about the fact that a lot of Israelis are now getting tattoos who didn't have tattoos before to commemorate the date that the Hamas came into Israel a little more than a month ago and started a war.
Well, my question. Okay, but my question is this: why will you put a tattoo in your body just to remember somebody died October? Isn't it painful to remember?
I mean, I think it's kind of a moment of proudness of your country, or to solidify that we're all Israelis, we're all in this together. So even if you're not in the Israeli military, you get the tattoo anyway. So it's the kind of the extreme, because it's such a small country, and there's so few. And the one of the things that I wanted to, because before, I think it was last week, we said 1,400 people had been killed. That's actually been downgraded. They now think it's 1,200. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson said this week that they have identified and the people that were killed in the initial attack and processed the numbers, and it seems to be less than when they first reported, which is surprising and not surprising at the same time. I know both sides tend to exaggerate their numbers, but he went ahead and this leads me to, when you're talking about, like I said, we're talking about the numbers, and like I said, they came out right away, literally the next day, 1,400. Not 1,400, it's 1,200. But one of the issues in the war in Israel is news. And this has turned out to be one of the big issues. I mean, how are we supposed to know what's going on in Gaza? Because no one is allowed in.
Good question.
No one's in, no one comes out. Foreign journalists have a near impossible task of getting in and reporting on the story within Gaza. And if you did get into the country, where would you stay? Because where you wouldn't get hit by a missile, because who knows where those missiles are going. And so how do we get all this news and video that we are getting? And the answer is freelancers.
Oh, the freelancer journalists.
The freelance journalists. The Palestinians who live and work in Gaza, and they get picked up as freelancers in order to report the news. And all the biggest news agencies, they run around dodging bullets and artillery and get the story, and then they send it to CNN or whoever, BBC, and then, hopefully they get paid. And the problem with this now, that has come out, big issue in the news, is they are dying.
The journalists.
The journalist. The freelance journalists. 40 journalists have already given up their lives since the start of the war. In fact, this past month has been described as the deadliest month for journalists. Because currently now, and here again, I don't think this is true, but the Gaza deaths stand at 10,500. Now, I have heard 12,000. I have heard it 3 times that amount. But that's the news we're getting out of Israel. So, I mean, and most of those people that are dying are civilians. It's not military. And, it's illegal to target civilians in a war. But, of course, these days, nobody's paying attention to that. And on the same token, it's also illegal to target journalists. But, and here's what I want to talk to you about. Blowing up a hospital or blowing up an ambulance is what we've been talking about lately. And that's filled with civilians, but it's discriminatory. And there's civilians in there. They know there's civilians in the hospital. They fire on them anyway. But with journalists, this is the difference. Sometimes the journalists themselves become the target based on what they are reporting. In other words, they are the journalists, and because they're a journalist, they have a bullseye on their back. So far in Gaza, 48 media facilities have been targeted and destroyed by the Israeli military, and 10 journalists' homes have been destroyed. They said that one of the bureau chiefs lost 4 members of his family in an Israeli strike, and he said, he's holding on to his dead son, and he's looking up at the camera saying, they're taking revenge on us by going after our children. His wife, his son, his daughter, his grandson, they were all killed. They were actually at a refugee camp waiting to move south. So what he said was that he had his doubts that they were not just going to let us go without punishment. Us being the journalists who were reporting on Israel to the world. And of course, they're saying the Israelis are illegally killing us. This is genocide. And, I think a lot of that has to do with that.
You know what, Eric? With that kind of news, I'm also confused whom to believe, because this is the war is ongoing, so there will be a lot of report left and right, and sometimes you really don't know whom to believe, because you don't know also who's lying because they need to do it, because probably part of the job, or somebody is trying to dictate to them what to do, what to say, because they want to have this report that everybody should, pay attention. So that's why I'm a little bit, worried about this report. I don't know which one is true, because I'm hearing both sides sometimes when I, watch and listen to a lot of stories. So I don't know. I mean, because this is war.
I mean, the guy that I'm talking about, whose family was killed, I believe him because there's a video of him holding his son in his hands. The other one, this other journalist from the Palestinian Authority, his house was hit and he killed 42 family members in one shot. I believe that because they have pictures of his family. And, I know that in the past, and here again, am I speaking on opinion, or am I just reporting on what they're saying? But I know in the past Israel has targeted specific journalists, and they have been killed. And it's not that the Israeli government is doing it. I mean, there's certain Israeli soldiers that targeted that woman that died from Al Jazeera, and everybody, the witnesses all said the Israelis military, they pointed their guns at her because they didn't like her because of the things that she was saying about the Israeli military. And they killed her.
Yeah, that's another thing. When somebody doesn't like you, they might just kill you for no because they don't like you for whatever reason.
I mean, one of the things that is very difficult to swallow is they are saying that certain the conspiracy theories that I see on social media, that there are certain journalists in Gaza, and they're saying they knew about the attack before it happened, that they are embedded within Hamas, and so they knew about the attack, they knew it was going to happen, and that's why they were able to report on it so quick. And so that information gets passed to the military, and the military says, well, they're with Hamas, so now they're a target. And so now these journalists are a target based on a conspiracy that somebody read in Facebook, and they shared it, and this list of names came out recently that said, oh, well, these people were all with Hamas, they're journalists, and they were part of the planning of the thing. I mean, as far as we know, none of this is true. But here again, the conspiracies of them going after, especially journalists who are working for CNN and BBC and the APF, and now they're targeting them through Facebook.
That's why that's why I don't know whom to believe here already. So I'm not there to to witness who. I
mean, imagine being a journalist. Imagine being a journalist, and you read on Facebook, "Hey, this guy, is part of Hamas, or he's working with Hamas," and you're like, "No, I'm not. I'm just reporting on what I see."
Yeah, that's my point. So that's why it's not, that's. Well,
now he's got to be worried about his family.
Yeah, exactly. So because because of the social media, sometimes you don't know who's telling the truth already.
Well, yeah. I mean,
and that's one. That's why I'm not really. I don't believe story right away. I just have to pause a little bit and.
Yeah, I just this is one of the things about that's going on right now in this conflict is the killing of journalists. And this man came on television. Now, I know this is a very famous video that has now gone viral, and he's talking to the woman who is in the studio, and he's in the field, and he's wearing his helmet, and he's wearing his bulletproof thing, and he's talking about his friend, the journalist, who also worked for the news agency, that was just killed. And you see the woman, the anchor woman on the television, starting to cry. And he says, no one is protecting us. Why am I even wearing this? And so he takes off his bulletproof jacket, he takes off his helmet, and he throws him on the ground. As you see this woman just burst into tears because they just lost someone that's been on their staff for a long time. And it's tough because if you look at the number of people that were killed in like the Vietnam War, the journalists, it's very few. Very few. I mean, way less than have already, in 9 years that have already died already in a conflict that's only been going on for a month.
Why do you think is that so?
I think it's because before we didn't target journalists. The Vietnamese didn't target the journalists. They targeted the soldiers. Here, they're targeting journalists who are saying things about the other side because of what they're saying.
Yeah, because again, this is part of the social media also. I think that's my opinion.
Yeah,
I mean because they read this and that, so they might believe, because there's a certain what do you call this? Probably the feeling of that person, or maybe this news is right. This is, I don't know.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's tough right now, especially in Israel, because we started out this thing. Israel was the good guys.
Yeah.
And now we're not so sure anymore.
Yeah, because now, you don't know because of the story. So now everyone is, if you're listening to the journalists, maybe they're saying that, it's hard for me to say, but yeah, you know what I mean.
I mean, I'm not disbelieving the journalists in Gaza, the Palestinian journalists, because it's one thing when you tell a story, it's another thing when you have video. And they definitely have lots and lots of video, to the point that the French president, Emmanuel Macron, has come out and said that the Israeli government needs to take a pause. They need to take a ceasefire for a while and let this kind of die down, because what he said was his government is urging Israel to stop the bombing because there's just no justification for what they're doing now. He says Israel has the right to protect itself. However, they need to stop bombing civilians. Now, Israel says it only bombs military targets in line with international law, and it's taking steps to reduce civilian casualties, such as warning ahead of the bombing that they're going to bomb. However, it's not like they're bombing 100 people accidentally. They are bombing thousands and thousands of people. And I talk about it, they say that right now there are 11,000 confirmed deaths. Many people don't believe that number. Many people think it's triple that.
Okay.
They just haven't been able to, this is the confirmed, where they actually have the bodies and they have documentation on it so far. Because, it's hard. It's hard in the middle of Gaza to confirm all the deaths because they're blowing up the hospitals. So what they're saying is, it just seems like that Israel is determined not just to kill Hamas, but to kill every single Palestinian.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that
really?
Palestinian.
Did you hear Netanyahu's speech?
Is not, well, I have a lot of Israeli friends. I don't think their heart is to kill the Palestinians. Only the bad guy,
I don't think it's in the Israel. Although I have to say, I don't know with a lot of Israelis, especially the hardcore right-wing Israelis. When you listen to them talk, they wish that they want them to wipe Palestine off the map. They hate those people. Just the same reason the Palestinians want to, completely, alleviate the world of Israelis, or not Israelis, the Jew sect. But anyway, but Macron said, listen, you guys are bombing babies, ladies, old people. They're on the news every day. I mean, we can look at it, and he says there's no reason for this, and it's not legitimate that they're doing this, and he's urging Israel to stop. President Netanyahu immediately reported that the leaders, or he responded that the leaders should condemn Hamas and not Israel. That today Hamas commits crimes against Israel, but tomorrow it will be Paris or New York or anywhere in the world, which is that's what Netanyahu does. He's a right-wing, hardcore conservative. That's how he was able to get kicked out of office and then get back in because of he went after the court system and trying to. Anyway, that's a whole nother issue, which we were actually kind of talking about before the war started. But Macron came out and said, hey, we condemn the crimes of Hamas and share in Israelis' pain and the willingness to get rid of terrorism. However, there's no justification for what is happening now. So, France is one of the largest Muslim communities in Europe, as well as Jewish. They have both there.
Yeah, they have both.
And, as we know now, the Jewish communities all around the world are being targeted.
Yeah.
In the United States, all over Europe, because of the fact that Netanyahu seems to be, according to the news that's coming out, going after Palestine, not going after Hamas. So that's why I think that there's a lot of this going on. And what's happening now, Lali, is now I want to get your opinion on this too. Does it seem like October 7th is being overshadowed and becoming less important because of all the Palestinians that are being killed? It seems to me.
Well, to be honest, my answer is I don't know.
To me it seems like, because if you start watching the news, we're not talking about October 7th anymore, are we? We're the 1,200. There's a big difference between 1,200 and 11,000. And I think that what Hamas did was absolutely horrific. I mean, they did not. It wasn't like the journalists took secret videos of them and showed her. Hamas took the videos themselves to show on the to put up on social media and everywhere to show the atrocities of the things they did. They wanted to anger the world. They wanted to anger the Israelis, and now the Israelis are going after all of Palestine. It looks like, and now the world is like. Now they're starting to feel a little animosity toward Israel, and starting to feel sorrow for the Palestinians.
I just hope God intervene. I mean,
which God?
Don't ask me.
Their God or their God?
But there's only one God, Eric. So I just hope He will intervene already, because there's a lot of people died already, and no one. I mean, for me, deserve to die. Well, of course, I understand this is war. In war, there is no exemption. Anybody could die. Children, ladies, all.
But that's not true exactly. There's an international law when you go to war that you are not supposed to target children. You're not supposed to target hospitals. You're not supposed to target journalists.
Yeah, that's the law. But what I'm saying is that anybody can die. You don't have to target them, but by accident, it can hit you.
Well, that's totally different now when we're talking about accident. But what it seems to be, what the world is reporting now, is that a lot of this is not accidents. They are specific. I mean, these Israelis, when they shoot at their target, they don't miss. They know what they're shooting at. And they are shooting at things that they absolutely know have children and women and old people living in them. They're shooting at apartment buildings and hospitals and ambulances that they know that there are civilians. It's full of civilians. In fact, they don't even have the report that there are actually Hamas in them. This is part of why this is such big news now. Is all these people are dying, and they're worried that as the counts start getting more and more and more, that this thing is going to flip, and now all of a sudden the world is going to turn against Israel.
Well, that's a sad part, when the world will turn against Israel now. they are the first victim here. They were attacked by Hamas. Because if there's no attack happen, I don't think there's war. There's no war supposed to be.
I mean, Israelis
today.
have been killing the Palestinians for 50 years.
We
But,
know that. It's been, but
it's been-
they started this
multiple,
October 7 again. So this is just like a retaliation. Like what other countries doing? Like
They
what
have
happened to you?
been, Israeli has retaliated and then Palestinian retaliated again, but never have anything like this happened before. And I think that's why all the leaders from the European nations, some leaders from Asian nations, and very soon, or as Blinken came out again this week and said, you guys have to stop this. And if the world is telling them, hey, you know what, all the world leaders get together and say, listen, you guys have to stop doing this. Yes, we know that Hamas came in, they were terrorists, and they came in and they killed these people, but you're losing your legitimacy by going in and killing all these children in revenge. You can't, you can have war against Hamas, but you can't specifically go in and target civilians. And I think that's why the entire world is now telling them, you need to stop this. And I think eventually the pressure may set in, especially if the United States comes out with a formal plea, well, they kind of already have, said you need to cease fire for a while, take a pause until we can figure out what to do with all these people. Give these people a chance to leave.
Okay, let's just pray, Eric, for this one to stop. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of churches here in the Philippines are praying for this to stop, this war to stop. Although a lot of Filipinos are coming back here already, but it's not only for Filipino. I mean, I'm speaking in behalf, as a Filipino. But what I'm saying is that this war should really stop. And what can we do as a normal person, just a regular citizen like me? All I can do is to pray for this war to stop, to touch the heart of these people in Gaza, in Israel, everywhere. We don't want people to die.
Well, yeah, I think that's why all the world leaders are coming together and saying, you need to stop.
That's why we need to pray for them.
We need to stop, because eventually they're going to say, listen, if you don't stop, we are going to turn against you. And then Israel is in big trouble because they need Europe and they need Asia and they need, because they don't have the Middle East, and they need the United States. And when it gets to that point, I think then they're going to have to think twice.
Okay, I'll send you there, Eric. Talk to them.
I don't think they're going to want me to come and talk to them anytime soon. But speaking of wars, there's a war going on in the United States now, but it's more hilarity of the week, and because a lot's happened in the week, this in the United States week, and I want to start by talking about this. We're going to switch gears big time right here because it all has to do with the Trump kids.
My favorite kids.
The Trump kids, they came back and they testified again in the civil suit brought against Trump's company for $250 million, and it's already been proven that the Trump is guilty of fraud. There's nothing else to say. But it's a documents case. It's not he said, she said. It's all about documents. And if the law says this is against the law and they have the documents, that's it. So the judge found Trump's company guilty of all counts, I think. But as much as they are, this is the issue right now, is how much are they going to have to pay? And that's all that really counts. How much you're going to have to pay. So Don Jr. took the stand again and continued his testimony with, I don't remember, and it was someone else's job. Okay. And he said that over and over and over again.
Okay,
and then the brother, Eric, pretty much did the same thing. Deny, blame. It's exactly what they did. The problem with Eric was they kept showing these, every time they'd ask him a question, and he would say, no, I didn't do that. Then they would show a giant
here's the documents. What about
document on the wall.
Yeah, like, what about this?
That said, well, you kind of did look up on the wall. And he's like, So anyway, what was it they asked him if he was involved in his father's fraudulent practices, and he said absolutely not. And then of course they put they keep putting his signature and the emails up, and especially when he had that one statement that they keep playing over. I had no involvement and never worked on my father's financial statement. And then, boom, they put the financial statement up with his signature on it. Anyway, but then the big news is Daddy Trump took the stand.
All right.
And it wasn't just a few minutes, and the whole thing just went off the rails. Mm-hmm. We knew it would. Trump started calling the prosecutor names, started going after the judge personally, saying this was the opposite of fraud, what he was doing, and looking at the prosecutor saying the fraud is her. So later he said the whole case was a scam. The whole thing was fraud on behalf of the court, and the court was the fraudster in the case. And the case should be dismissed immediately. Mm-hmm. But of course the case is not going to be dismissed immediately because like I said, the evidence, Lolly, the evidence is there and there's no disputing it. But let me ask you this. In my opinion, and here again, I don't like to give my opinion, but I think it's obvious, Trump has lost. He's lost the case. So he's on the stand rambling on and going on all these tangents and all these side things. Because what else is he going to do?
Nothing.
Get himself on the, this is how you get on the news. He knew he was going to be the top thing on the news. Trump totally goes off the rails. I don't know how many times I heard the word rails.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
This way, off the rails. That was the biggest thing. Because he just went, haywire. In distractions, calling the judge names. At one point, the judge had to look at Trump's lawyer and say, "Can you control your client?"
Yeah, I was laughing when I heard that. Can you control your client?
And everybody thinks, well, he's doing this. He's doing this because he's trying to get a rise out of the judge so he can get an appeal. Mm-hmm. But the judge knows that this is what he's trying to do. So the judge is very calm and very, And immediately after the Trump gave his testimony, his lawyer came out and said, this judge should be removed because he's totally biased. That's never going to happen.
Who are you to say that, by the way?
And when the judge turned around to Trump and he goes, this is not a political rally or a speech time.
Yes.
Just please answer yes or no.
Yes. He forgot that this is not a political rally. This is the court. All you have to do is answer yes or no, whether you deny or not.
But Trump said something very interesting this week.
What is it?
And that is, he said that if he wins the presidency, he's going to come after all these people.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's not going to do what he did the last time. Last time when he was in presidency, he got like some good guys to be on his cabinet. He got this person to be his DOJ. And then he realized, I'm not going to do what any of these people tell me to do. I'm going to do what I want. So he got rid of all of them. Either they resigned or they went to jail. Mm-hmm. Every single one of Trump's cabinet right now is either totally against him or they're in jail. So, or we're going to jail, but he pardoned them or whatever.
All right.
I mean that's interesting, isn't it? Like before you even win the presidency, you're already saying, listen, I'm only going to get people that I know are going to do what I say, and we're going after everybody. He even said, he goes, I'm going to go after Biden for all the stuff he's done. And of course, some reporters like, what did Biden do? Of course, Trump never tells us what Biden actually did because they've been trying to go after Biden forever and they can't find anything. So I find this interesting that this is what, because isn't this what, and I don't want to say this name because everybody's going to say I'm comparing the two, but isn't that what Hitler did? Hitler said, if I get this, I'm going to go after and that's what he did. He went back for everybody that had gone against him before in the past.
Isn't that like a warning to Americans? Once you put him back in power, he's going to do this. And one thing that I read again today is the illegal immigrants or the immigrants.
Yes.
They're gonna, he will be, oh my God, this is big time. So Filipinos in America, be careful if you are illegal.
There's a lot of illegal Filipinos in America. Because before, we don't really care. We don't really care that much. If you're an illegal in America, we actually kind of like having you there.
Yes, exactly. Because, they can, I know the people that work and they get paid under the table. So,
there's the nannies and caregivers and the people that work in the farms and so forth. I mean, there's a lot of Filipinos that work there. They may not have a work permit, but we need them. But
exactly.
Trump's idea is every immigrant gone.
Everybody.
We're going to get rid of every immigrant once I get into the.
He's like he has already a list of the things that he's going to do. So if you're going to read it, you will be scared. Like, oh my God.
The interesting thing is, with all the stuff that's going on, Trump is ahead in the polls in the swing states.
Yes.
In the states that really matter. Literally, our elections come down to 5 states because we already know what the other states. They always go Democrat or they always go Republican, and there's 5 states that can go either way. And Trump is ahead of the 6 states. He's ahead in 5.
Yeah. So this will be a good fight between, let's say, Biden and Trump again.
I mean, it's a year. It's a year away.
Yeah, it's a year away. There's a lot of things can happen. I know.
We just had an election in the United States. Our elections are November 6th. So we just had an election, which, by the way, the Democrats really cleaned up in this last election, which is surprising. I was very surprised because, Trump has been doing very well in the polls, but all of a sudden we had this election. And one of the big issues is abortion.
Yes.
And abortion was on the things to vote for, and overwhelmingly, even conservative states decided that abortion is going to be, because just so everybody knows, not too long ago they overturned the law of abortion, the federal law of abortion, and gave it over to the states. And so now they voted at the states, and overwhelmingly the states voted to make abortion legal. Yeah,
abortion rights. But every woman,
What do you think would happen if that ever came to the Philippines? If that ever came up to a vote in the Philippines? For the whole, let's say the whole country, how do you think people would lean?
In terms of abortion?
Yeah.
I don't know. Filipinos are, we have, I don't know if we are a little more conservative, I think, when it comes to that. But I know for a fact that, abortion is, people who are getting abortion here.
Yeah, I mean, it happens here.
It happens here.
It happens here. It's illegal, but it happens here, I'm sure.
But if we are going to make it a law, to, make it legal, I don't know. That's a big no-no. Even, remember, Eric, even divorce, we cannot even pass the, so.
I think divorce, for sure. I think if you gave it to all the people, I think they would go, yeah.
Yeah, but maybe this, I don't know.
I don't know about the abortion thing, though.
But abortion that's why I cannot.
The Philippines is not quite at that point yet, like they are in the United States. Because in the United States, it was legal for 50 years.
Yeah.
And so now, then the Trump's issue with the Supreme Court, flipping the Supreme Court, and then they overturned it, and now it's up to the states. But I was very surprised
me too.
At election time that they decided to keep abortion in most states, especially conservative states, which were so, yelling that we need to get rid of it, and then they voted to keep it.
Because there is there's a certain thing that you have to consider if you are going to have abortion. There's cases of rape, there are cases
I know,
of this
yeah,
and that.
there's all kinds of,
there's a lot of issues, okay, why are we going to stop it? Because there's a lot of cases in America, so. Well.
And again, it could be, the woman has 5 kids, and that's enough. I don't want to have another kid. So, but speaking of things that have stopped, remember we used to talk about the writer's strike? Yeah. That was a big deal, the writer's strike, because my favorite shows went off television. And then while they were doing that, they had the actor's strike at the same time, so nobody was working. Yeah. So anyway, they figured out the writer's strike. Well, I think it was 2 days ago, the actor's strike ended. Yeah, okay. Finally.
All right. So Eric, can you explain a little bit of that? What was the deal happen?
Yeah, I mean, there was a reason why the actors went on strike. First, the issue was, we talked a lot about it here, AI. The fact that they were using their faces without their permission, streaming, of course, more pay, health benefits, things like that. So they got, what did they get? $1 billion over 3 years. This is for all the actors. And so, and a lot of people are saying, oh, actors get paid too much. That is not true. The really good actors, Tom Cruise, makes $20 million a movie. But the guy who's driving the car that doesn't make, he makes regular wage. He doesn't make that much. And so this is really for them. And what they did was they came up with this idea, this contract, and it deals with the AI problem, the streaming problem, the wage increase for background actors, for character people that don't have a line, And get this, it's really weird. Ensure that sets have proper hair and makeup departments for black actors. Which I didn't even know that was part of the thing, but that seems to be a big issue in the past. Black actors being able to, the studio doesn't have the budget for hiring people to do their hair and makeup, which is totally different than a white person, and now they have to. The studios have to do that. So, and now there's a new provision for sex scenes that they must have an intimacy coordinator.
Oh my goodness.
On set. For if you have to do a sex scene or a nude scene. So that's part of the thing. But of course, the highlight is the money. Because before, Netflix, Disney, Hulu, all those places, they made all the money from streaming.
Right.
But now they have to share it with the actors.
Wow, that's a good deal.
That's a good deal because there's a $40 million pool from streaming, and 75% of that will go for the most popular streaming shows, the ones that you keep seeing over and over. Right. And then 25% will go to those, we'll have a fund that goes to those shows that you don't see as much, but they still do stream. Okay. And the AI issue was huge, especially about the fake performers or using the likenesses of somebody. Especially background actors. And people go, why would they use the background actor? For when they have these giant crowd scenes, so they take a shot of a giant crowd scene and they need to shoot another one, but they don't want to pay the actors to come in for another day, so they just put them on, just put their faces on the thing, and then run the AI with those people's faces on it. They can't do that anymore. Or if they do that, they got to pay them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because normally, even here, the local, say when I was involved in show business, if you need to get an extra cast, extra people, you really have to pay them, like per day. Like, okay, this normally because the extras are only, they have a certain, very short, as if the camera will just, pass you, zoom, that's it. But the people will stay there for hours.
I know, yeah. I lived in New York, and we were all background actors on everything. And you go and you get your $50 at the time.
Exactly.
At that time, it was only $50 a day.
Yeah,
so we get our we get our $50 a day. It was back in the 80s, and we would show up, and we'd be on camera for 4 seconds, but we would sit there for 9 hours.
Exactly. So
waiting for our time. Okay, you're gonna walk across. Okay, you're done.
Yeah, you can go home. Get your
so speaking of strikes, though, Lolly, I wanted to get to this on what's going on in Bangladesh. Lolly, when you go to 𝗪Ç and you get your cheap clothes, or you go to 𝗪𝗱𝗱 and you get, in 𝗪Ç it's all Chinese. That's what I heard. 𝗪Ç it's all Chinese, but in 𝗪𝗱𝗱 it's all Bangladesh. Who makes those clothes in Bangladesh? And that's the issue. Because those cheap clothes that are produced in Bangladesh, those workers have been making $95 a month.
A month?
A month. That's what? 4,000 pesos. 4,000 pesos a month.
Wow.
To work in a hot factory making clothes. And so the issue being inflation rate in Bangladesh is off the scale. It's up 9%.
Wow.
And so the people are like, we can't do it. We can't live. And so they walked out, and they started protesting. And the factory said, all right, listen, we'll increase your wage to $113. And the factory workers are like, what?
113?
113? That's not...
Yeah, it's like here is by at least 5,000 pesos.
Yeah, it's a little over 5,000 pesos. In fact, right now I think it might be 5,000 pesos. And these are companies like HR and Zara and Levi's. That's what they work for. So what they wanted was $208 a month, which about I think 10,000 pesos.
10,000, okay.
So protests have broken out and very violent.
Wow.
Thousands of people have been taken to the streets. 3 people have already died. Police are using tear gas and rubber bullets, and things are getting worse. And dozens of people have ended up in the hospital. A protester set fire to a factory and caused the death of another worker. So, I mean, this is bad. We were talking, I was looking back at something we talked about before. A long time ago, we talked about the factory building that collapsed in Bangladesh, killing 1,100 people, and mostly women working in a factory. And so I looked this up. The big issue is the garment business went from being worth $14 billion in 2011 to to $33 billion in 2019.
Wow.
It's 35% of the gross domestic product in Bangladesh. So the people working, making the clothes are making 4,000 pesos a month.
Oh my goodness! And then they're making how much?
No wonder they're mad.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
So anyway, so this is a big issue. Even the brands like H&M are asking the Bangladeshi government, listen, can you step in and change the minimum wage because because it's going to hurt them.
Oh yeah, of course, definitely.
Because eventually they're not going to be able to get their orders in. Just like 𝗪𝗱𝗀 probably they're worried about the orders coming in there because the factories, people are walking out and they won't work.
So it means, Eric, that our garment factory in the Philippines is giving more. I mean, a lot more than the Bangladesh, right?
Yes.
You know that.
I mean, here in the Philippines, we have now we have laws for minimum wage. And so I know in the garment business here, a lot of it's pay per sew and things like that. So I think the garment people here do fairly well. But obviously, there in Bangladesh, they are making very little. And you think, how much it costs to go to McDonald's now, and you can't go to McDonald's. And they
should be, I just wish the company will pay those people. I mean, try to be fair to your people. They're working hard. It's not easy.
I mean, the gross domestic product, 35%. Is clothes.
Clothes, wow.
So they're making money. I mean, it's not like this is the reason they're making so much money is they're not paying their workers. There's 4 million workers in Bangladesh that do nothing but make clothes.
Think of your people. Think of your,
so
share the blessing.
We hope they get, $208. What's that, 10,000 pesos?
10,000 pesos,
I think that's what they need to be paying them. But thinking about things that are blowing up, I wanted to get to our climate segment because, we love to have the climate segment every week. And, we wanted to talk about volcanoes. And people go, well, that's not really climate. It is. It actually is. When these volcanoes blow up and the stuff blows up into the air, that definitely affects our climate. And we're all very familiar with volcanoes, especially here in the Philippines.
Oh, we have a lot of volcanoes here.
A lot of volcanoes here, and Hawaii, which we've been talking about. Yeah. But we've never really talked a lot about volcanoes in Italy.
Not really.
Ever, I don't think. Of course, the most famous volcano in Italy is Mount Vesuvius, which blew its top in 79 A.D.
Wow.
and
79 AD?
Which turned all those people to stone. They made a movie about it called Pompeo, I think. I think they turned them into ash. But now their concern is the Phlegraean Fields, which I had never heard of until I started looking at this. It's a plain that's stretching 200 kilometers under the Bay of Naples, and it's a giant calendar left by a supervolcano, which was there some 2 million years ago. Now, something struck my eye when I saw this. What the heck is a supervolcano?
Yeah, what is it? What did you get?
Okay, so no one has ever seen a supervolcano that's alive because most of these supervolcanoes were far, but they were talking about the way to look at it is in 1991, the eruption of Pinatubo in the Philippines.
No, okay.
That a supervolcano is 100 times more powerful than that.
Oh, really? 100 times?
Yeah, so that's how they come up with these ideas. And they say there was a volcano at Yellowstone Park that had a super eruption, but no one saw it because it happened 2.1 million years ago. But the type of eruption was lava about 500 degrees Celsius traveling at 300 kilometers per hour.
Oh, my God.
Much like in 1902, there was a volcano eruption in Mount Pelée, a town of St. Pierre, that was completely destroyed and killed every single person in the town, 28,000 people, because the lava was so fast, and it just hit the town before anybody could even move. They couldn't outrun it. So anyway, this volcano that we're talking about in Italy has now had some seismic activity. Now, the last time it had big seismic activity was 1538.
1538? Oh my goodness, Eric.
So, which is the last time the last major eruption happened there. However, there's been some very substantial activity now.
Okay.
So in 2023, the area that we're talking about recorded 3,450 different earthquakes.
My goodness.
1,118 of those earthquakes happened in August alone, and more than 400 earthquakes happened in October. And when you have that many earthquakes in such a short amount of time, something's bubbling.
Yeah,
Something's
exactly.
percolating underneath the earth. So the Citizens Protection Agency has a plan to move all the 500,000 residents out of the area in a short amount of time. And they've been working on this because some people are saying there's a 50% chance that this thing could blow. And if it blows, it's going to be massive.
Yeah, and nobody will survive with that kind of, eruption.
No, they say the magma is right now is 8 kilometers under the surface.
Oh, wow.
But the ground is rising.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's rising fast.
Well, if you have a friend there, Eric, tell your friend to get out, come to the
Get
Philippines.
out of Naples because, and what they're saying is this could change because they could have all these eruptions and then it could settle and then we wouldn't have to worry about it again for another 500 years or not.
Well, better be safe, better be careful, because there's already a sign that it could.
I know.
So,
it's funny. We're talking about this in Iceland just this week. They put out a warning of the likelihood they believe there's going to be a volcanic eruption in Iceland because they're having the same problem. They had a swarm of earthquakes. They had 800 earthquakes between midnight and 2 p.m. on Friday.
Oh my goodness!
This past Friday.
Oh my God! That is very scary. If I live in that area, I'm gonna tell my friend, let's move out. Let's go somewhere. This is not a joke.
They know the lava is under Iceland, and they're just worried about a fission breaking open and lava shooting out, and so they're taking a lot of precautions there.
Here in Mayon volcano, there's already warning. If you're 6 kilometers, you should move away from at least 6 kilometers away from the volcano. Things like that, we have warning. And this is only the Philippines, but there's nothing that, nothing is happening yet. But,
So,
anyway.
and in the Philippines, they're always talking about the big earthquake that's going to hit and the big volcano. You think the Philippines is ready?
Well, to be honest with you, we are supposed to be ready, but I don't think so.
I don't know what I'd do if the earthquake. Like I said, run outside.
Even though
go outside.
We have this warning, we have this, we have to be ready. But when it's happening already,
I know,
you panic.
Everybody panics.
Yeah, it's like
everybody screams. I know. I was in the mall one time when an earthquake happened here.
Yeah.
And everybody just screamed and jumped on top of each other, trying to get out the door. But I can tell you right now, we're running out of time, but I did want to get to the medical news because every week we try and do the medical news. And we did a story here, I don't know, about a month ago about a man that had a pig heart.
Yeah.
The pig man, I called him. They transplanted a heart from a pig into him.
Yeah.
And what they did was they changed the pig's DNA, basically, and made its heart grow like a human heart.
Right.
And so then when it was time, fortunate for the pig, they took, I wonder if they ate the pig after they took the heart. Anyway, probably not because it'd probably be poisonous. But anyway, they took the heart out of the pig out and put it in the human, and he was doing pretty good. He was sitting up, he was, doing the jogging and all the stuff and getting himself back. He died this week.
Oh my God!
After just a short time.
Short time? How long? How did it? How long?
It was. He was given the heart on September 20th, and was improving every day until he wasn't this week.
Wow.
And all of a sudden this week, his body rejected the heart, and he finally passed away. A statement from his wife said she honestly didn't think he would survive this long. So she's actually so happy that she had him for a few more weeks. And I just want to say that this is called a xenotransplant.
What do you call it? Say it again.
Xenotransplant.
I mean, there's a transplant from pig to human.
From pig to human, or from animal to human.
Okay.
And that's what they call these things.
All right.
For anything they would bring over. And the problem being that the humans reject the tissue.
Oh, the tissue. You can imagine the tissue of human being to, the pig.
Which is why they modified the pig's DNA to make it. They knew this was. They made the pig have a heart like a human, so they could do this. But anyway, they're going to try it again. And so, hopefully by the time I am old, Lolly, before the show ends today, that they will have the pig heart thing figured out. So if I need a heart, I can get it from all the pigs that I've eaten. So, but in any case, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time here on the World News Jam. So if you're listening, all the humans and all the pigs out there that might be watching the show today, sorry to all the pigs. We are done with the show, but thank you so much for tuning in tonight here on the World News Jam on DZRJ and RJTV. And so for me, Eric Lecain, and Lolly Tolentino, we will see everybody next week. Please be safe out there, and we'll see you then.